My dear brothers and sisters, my name is Pablo Antonio Jimenez, and I am your instructor for this video about the declining church. The church, at the dawn of the 21st century, is seeing a new phase of church growth. In particular, we see the deliberate use of marketing techniques in the development of plans and strategies for church growth, revitalization, and the establishment of new congregations. In this occasion, we refer to the contributions made by Tom Bandy, an expert on church growth and revitalization. In particular, we refer to the ideas that Bandy has presented in a great book called Kicking Habits, which we recommend strongly. Tom Bandy defines himself as a coach for Christian congregations. Bandy states that congregations need to have clear objectives for renewal and growth. Here we have an image of the cover of one of the latest editions of Bandy's book. About the aims of Bandy's book, we can say that the whole purpose of this book is to avoid false starts in church leadership. First, the people of God need to capture, or rather be captured by, a vision. Second, people need to understand the meaning of systemic change. Third, people need to identify the key corners that their congregation must turn in order to thrive in the 21st century. Fourth, people need to plan for stress. Why? Because transition can be stressful, but thriving churches have learned that you can plan for change, addressing its different stages, and in that way not be overwhelmed by it. Let's talk then about the declining church. Here we have a rather harsh definition of the declining church. Why? Because it says that the declining church is an addict. Churches that are declining are addicted to habitual, self-destructive behavioral patterns which they do not even recognize. The most difficult thing an addict must do is admit his or her addiction. Denial is a chronic condition of the local church, though that denial is often projected with anger onto denominational leaders or judicatory leaders. The difficulty with perceiving a vision is that too often the congregation is simply unable to discern between an authentic call by Jesus Christ and its abiding addictions to past ideals, forms, and procedures. Congregations can go on retreats, establish visioning committees, restructured board, and direct truly sincere people to investigate the authenticity of their calling and still miss the truth, still miss the vision, the calling that God has for them. Declining churches want the congregation to develop a sense of family. Instead of being a thriving church, they just want to be a cozy family where everybody feels part of a group. These congregations understand that the faith development process goes through 5 stages, and these stages are detailed in the following slides. The first stage is to be a member. These congregations emphasize how important it is to become the member of a parish. However, they rarely offer classes for new believers or for people who move from other denominations. So a lot of people don't know what does it mean to be a member of the church. Usually, these congregations have minimum requirements for maintaining membership, such as attending church once every 6 months or even less in some cases. The church then becomes preoccupied with recruitment. They fast forward newcomers toward membership and holding office, even though that usually brings problems because if you don't know that particular church or tradition, to be holding an office usually leads to conflict. These churches also form evangelism committees whose chief task is to invite people to come to church and to encourage their institutional support. These recruits usually bear a remarkable resemblance to the cultural, racial, linguistic, educational, and economic identities of the people who are already inside the institution. So they are welcome in the church because they look like the others Plus, they also have some skills that might bring support to the institution. In declining congregations, befriending people, particularly established leadership, is more important than attendance to church activities and even worship. Established leaders inform new members of the traditions of the congregation so that the new people know how to act properly, how to participate without rocking the boat. Tradition has a very heavy weight in declining congregations. In some sense, they understand that their main mission is to maintain the traditions, not to preach the gospel, but to maintain the traditions that they have received from their elders, even if those traditions are no longer effective. Those who see themselves as established leadership of the church are always looking for candidates for positions in the governing bodies of the congregation. These traditional leaders nominate those who they see as their peers, as potential partners, sharing their values, social and ethnic background. For this reason, the governing bodies tend to be homogeneous, even if the congregation is more diverse. We once had a church uh, in New York where only about 5% of the church was Puerto Rican. About 95% of the church were Latinos from other countries, but the full board was Puerto Rican. Everybody who was sitting on the board was Puerto Rican. So, in that sense, you see a clear example of this point. The prize for spiritual maturity in this kind of congregation is to be part of the governing body. Once you are in the governing body, you have reached spiritual development. The members of these governing bodies understand that their main task is to monitor both the overall functioning of the church, but also to monitor how the minister works. Of course, if you see yourself as the director, not as a parishioner, then your job description includes supervising the pastor. And when you do that, you place yourself above the congregation. Of course, this hinders the pastoral relationship, given that you don't see the minister as your leader, but you see him as an employee. The person who has achieved this position of directorship seeks to supervise those who do ministry and to manage that ministry so that it never inadvertently contradicts the ethos, heritage, or identity of the group. What they want is for the minister also to keep the tradition. The highest level of lay leadership in the declining type of church is achieved when an individual is seen as one of the bulwarks or pillars of the congregation. Sometimes the guardians occupy the highest leadership positions for several consecutive years, like somebody who has been chair of the board for 10 years. Others yield leadership from time to time. However, these people still hold great influence over the congregation, and basically nobody makes a move without knowing what this leader is thinking about the issue at hand. Anyway, the guardians understand that their mission is to maintain the tradition of the church, and this explains their rejection of any new ideas. And for this reason, they see anyone who opposes their leadership as an enemy of the church. The declining church educates people, but it educates people with all the appropriate information that they need in order to adapt to the system that is already there. What they seek is to preserve the heritage, and they concentrate on passing the torch, that heritage, onto their children and youth, if they have any, attending the congregation. Here we have a clear pattern of how the declining church model works. You begin in membership, the person is enrolled, you move to friendship, the person is informed, you move to fellowship, and once you have fellowship, you're nominated, you become a director, and then you become a supervisor, and you end up being a guardian. What about the pastor in this model? In the declining congregation, the pastor is seen as an employee of the congregation, a person whose primary responsibility is to carry out the mission of the church. It is the pastor who gets the task to search for souls, for new members, and to relate to the community at large. But there's a scrutiny of the pastoral leadership in the belief that the minister needs to visit more, to do more, and to do all the mission work for the congregations instead of enabling the church to do mission. The old division of labor, in which the clergy do ministry and the laity do management, then is transformed into a dysfunctional leadership system in which the clergy do all the ministry and the board members are the supervisors. The board members not only supervise the minister, they also tell them what to do, whom to see, whom to minister. And of course, in such a model, the finance committee becomes the key force in the church. In conclusion, the declining church system is all about belonging. It assumes that belonging to one institution will provide people with meaning in life. It seeks to recruit and initiate people into a group membership parallel to a family identity. Declining church draws people toward the unity of a central control for congregational life, so that the intensity of one's belonging matches the degree to which one holds power. It seeks to raise money to pay for others to do ministry. Of course, this is a system in which keeping people is more important than welcoming people. Keeping people is more important than helping people to develop in the faith. In this system, preserving the system is more important than the mission or even of addressing public needs. In summary, what is the mission in the declining church? The mission is whatever surplus energy and resources you have after keeping the doors open. Once you survive, whatever is left, that is mission. It's sad, but on our next video, we are going to be speaking about the thriving church, and that is a great model to see. So until then, may the Lord be with you.